Do you remember wrestling on ITV on a Saturday afternoon? Do you remember wrestling at the Victoria Hall? Well, we don't get much wrestling these days, but it was very show busy, wasn't it? And what's caught my eye is that a charity wrestling match is being organised in a couple of weeks in Congleton. And it's being organised with two of the organising team, are Lisa Daniels and Marc Pearson, who join me in the studio now. Lisa, Marc, welcome.
Hi, Terry.
Right, are you old enough to remember wrestling on ITV?
Yeah, we both are, yeah. Yes, unfortunately.
So, how long ago was it?
Well, Greg Dyke took wrestling off ITV in 1988, I believe it was. So is it 25 years it's been now?
No.
I think it was 25 years it's been since it was last on television. It's on television nowadays on Challenge TV.
Yeah.
You've got a company called TNA, which is an American program.
Yeah.
And there's also there's a new wrestling show that's on every week, but it's focusing on a bit of British wrestling, a bit of American wrestling. But yeah, it's 25 years since Greg Dyke took World of Sport off ITV. And I don't know about you, Lisa, but I remember. Some of my earliest memories. I've got my two earliest memories are watching F1 with my dad on my dad's lap and watching World of Sport on my dad's lap
On a Saturday afternoon.
on a Saturday afternoon.
And was your mum out shopping?
More than likely, the way of keeping me quiet.
Yeah. And Lisa, what were your memories of wrestling?
Pretty similar, to be honest. I've never been a huge wrestling fan, but I have a brother that's a few years younger, and I remember going into town on a Saturday and leaving him at home. In pretty much the same situation that Marc was in. Sat at home watching World of Sport with my dad.
So all the famous names like Giant Haystacks and
Big
those?
Daddy and all ones like that. Kendo Nagasaki and Mick McManus, who's passed away a couple of weeks ago, unfortunately.
Yeah. Did you ever want to be a wrestler when you grew up?
I did, yeah. I thought it would be the greatest thing in the world. I really did. And I don't know, it's something I never pursued, and then about 5 years ago now, I decided to go and give it a try. Yeah. And Chris Curtis is a wrestler in Stoke-on-Trent. He's based in Stoke-on-Trent. He's got a training school here. Went and gave it a try. Was absolutely terrible at it. So I came home black and blue. Yeah. I had a ripped ligament in one of my elbows because of taking the falls. And
well, actually, going down that track, I mean, in a way, it was quite violent.
Yes.
But it was very showbiz, wasn't it?
Absolutely. A lot of people believe that wrestling's fake. Yeah. And the thing is, it's a tricky one because while the matches are predetermined, people. I'm not going to say anything that I don't think I shouldn't be saying, but the matches are predetermined. They know who the winner's going to be, but all the bumps and all the falls they really hurt. That's something that I went into wrestling training thinking this is going to be fine. I know that you learn how to fall and you're going to protect yourself. But if one of the guys that we've got on our show, a guy called T-Bone, is 7 feet tall. Absolutely massive, covered in tattoos. If he picks you up and he slams you on the ground, it really hurts. Yeah. But there is the showbiz element of it as well, because if you've ever watched amateur wrestling, like in the Olympics or something, as if you like that sort of thing, I'm sure it's very entertaining, but it's quite boring to watch. So when wrestling became showbiz in the 1920s over in America, and I think it was that sort of time over here as well, it's a combination of the two.
So to make it hurt less, you have to be fit, presumably.
Oh goodness,
you train how to
yeah, you have to train. I worked for a company called GPW as a commentator, and our boss Johnny Brannigan, he runs the GPW training school. I was in conversation with him recently. He said it takes 2 years of training. From the day you walk into the training school, you're looking at 2 years just to get into your first match. And the conditioning that you have, the condition these men have to be in. If you think, you mentioned a moment ago about Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks. They were big, fat men.
So that was the equivalent of heavyweight in boxing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Super heavyweight.
Yes, probably a super heavyweight. Yeah. You don't see men like Big Daddy or Giant Haystacks anymore. Men who were absolutely really fat men. Yeah. The wrestlers you see these days, and the guys that we're going to have on our show, they've got their muscle and they've got the six packs, and they put so much time in the gym you wouldn't believe.
So why don't you get the big men? Because they'll have the power, won't they? And the strength and the power.
But it's just the pace of wrestling these days is so fast.
Yeah.
Back in the World of Sport days, it was quite a slow, it was quite a mat-based style, And it wasn't uncommon to hold a headlock for 5 minutes, and that was considered entertaining. Whereas if a wrestler held a headlock for more than a minute these days, they'd be booed out of the building. It just wouldn't happen. The British wrestling has adopted the American style, so it's a lot faster. It's a lot faster paced. So like I say, you do see the occasional big guy, but they're a rarity. We've got one guy on our show, a guy called Cyanide, who is a really big guy.
Cyanide?
The toxic terror.
That's his showbiz name, isn't it?
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
Cyanide,
yeah.
So, Lisa, now, what about when we watch these wrestling shows on television? They always had the lady, at the front row with the handbag. Mm-hmm. Is that you?
Oh, no. I very rarely go, to be honest.
Yeah.
I went to GPW last night to support Marc with his commentating. I hadn't seen him. It was a charity show, again, that we went to last night. But as a general rule of thumb, I tend to stay home.
Do you still get the ladies with the handbags?
Do you know, I've been a proper British wrestling fan now for 2 years, and one of the things I was looking forward to was seeing the old lady on the front row with the handbag. And the first couple of shows that I went to, there wasn't one. And it's like, oh. But then I've been to a couple of shows recently where there is the old woman, in her 60s, and she's shaking her fist at the bad guy, and when he comes past, she started whacking him with a handbag, and I was so happy about that, to the point where I found myself, I had one eye focused on the match and one eye focused on the woman. Because she was so entertaining. It was brilliant. Yeah, so you still get them. You still do.
So, do you think she's planted? Is she planted?
No. She just really, really enjoys it, and she must have been going for years and years and years.
Okay, right. So, what about, we've mentioned the fact that it used to be on ITV, and that stopped 25 years ago.
If you can believe that, yeah.
And then we also mentioned the fact that you're going to be. We'll talk about this match that you're organising shortly. Of course, there were many matches, weren't there, at the Victoria Hall?
Absolutely, Victoria Hall is synonymous with British wrestling. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of wrestlers since I got into the business, and when I say, when they ask me where are you from, and I say I'm from Stoke-on-Trent, one of the first things that comes up in conversation, do you go to the Victoria Hall? And there's still wrestling on once a month there. A company called All Star Wrestling still promote there, and it's still always packed. Yeah. And it's such a good venue. The acoustics in there are perfect. The seating arrangements in there are perfect, and there's so many memories in there. So many great names that have wrestled there.
Do you remember all the wrestling on ITV on a Saturday afternoon? Maybe you even went to some of the wrestling games, if not really a game, is it really, but a wrestling match at the Victoria Hall. And the reason we're talking about wrestling is that a charity wrestling event has been organised in a couple of weeks in Congleton. Two of the organisers are Lisa Daniels and Marc Pearson, and they join us in the studio. So, Lisa, I know that Marc knows more about the wrestling side. Mm-hmm. You know more about the charity that it's all in aid of. So tell me about that. You're holding this match to raise money for charity.
It is. It's for the Storehouse, which is a charity that's run by New Life Church in Congleton. Basically, what they do is they put together food packages for disadvantaged people, people that are struggling financially, basically to help them in any way that we can. What's happened recently, unfortunately, with recent benefit changes, they're being inundated with people asking for help, and they have no funding whatsoever other than what the church can give them. So basically they're after as much donation as they can.
Right.
Because although you'd think that Congleton was quite an affluent area, they are really struggling to do this, and there's quite a few families that are really struggling.
So is the charity Storehouse a Congleton-based charity? They're based within New Life Church. Within New Life Church, yeah. So there are issues then in the Congleton area from a poverty point of view. Unfortunately, yeah. There also seems to be quite a lot of high unemployment because I think partially because of where Congleton is. If you haven't got a car, for example, you'd have to find somewhere to travel out to Stoke or up to Macclesfield to secure a job, which means relying on buses. So. Again, I have to say that my knowledge of Congleton is that there aren't many big employers, are there? There's only a few. Yeah. So you're right. And getting out of Congleton, if you don't have a car, are there buses? Is it easy? Or is it a train? I suppose you'd have to go by train, wouldn't you? The trains are, as I understand, quite infrequent. I think you're lucky if you get one an hour. Yeah. Buses, I believe, are every half hour or so in either direction. So it can be quite tricky, and of course they only seem to run at peak times. So say for example, if you had a warehouse job in Stoke
well, you wouldn't be able to accept it because you wouldn't be able to do shifts.
So the charity is called Storehouse, and it basically donates food to the needy. Yeah. What are the criteria? I mean, how do you go about doing it? Do you put together a pack of food, or how does it work?
Basically, what they do is they have, as the name suggests, one big storehouse. They've had donations of cash and food, non-perishables primarily, that they keep within the grounds in the storehouse itself. And when somebody requests help, they'll literally box up, say for example, a box of cornflakes, some UHT milk, etc. Pop it all together to help that family. And I believe they're actually tailoring it more towards what they're basically value staple diet sort of things.
Rather than the junk food. Yeah, fair enough. So this wrestling match is to raise money for Storehouse, which is run by the New Life Church. Whereabouts is that in Congleton? They're
right on the A34 on West Street.
As you get right close to Congleton.
Just as you're getting into Congleton town centre.
Is that near the Is it Quick Fit?
It's near the Quick Fit, yeah.
I know what you mean, yeah. So the wrestling match then, is that going to be held in the church?
Yes, it is, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
The New Life Church was originally a boys' school.
Yeah.
Back in the day, so of course, because it was a school, it's got a massive assembly hall.
Yeah.
So that's where the church services happen on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
But that's where the.
So does wrestling, a violent sport of wrestling, albeit show busy, does that sit okay with the church then?
Well, it's an interesting one because when we first mooted the idea about 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And there was just me and Lisa and two friends who were helping organise it. You know, we said, we know enough people in the business. We could put a wrestling event on. And when we suggested putting it on at the church, we thought, we'll ask, but they won't be interested. And the church they've been overwhelmingly supportive.
Yeah.
They've been so supportive. And yeah, I mean, we're going to be putting on a family-friendly show. I can't stress that enough. It's a family entertainment show.
Yeah.
There won't be any swearing. There won't be any blood. There won't be any weapons or anything like that.
Will be the ladies with the handbags?
I hope so.
Or will it be the vicar with the chalice?
It could.
Oh,
Either, couldn't it?
That's
right. I hope there's a lady in the front row with a handbag. I'll be actually quite disappointed if there isn't, to be honest.
Yeah. But we won't plant her there.
No. So of course it's a new generation, isn't it, of
yes.
wrestlers?
Absolutely. Yes.
I was going to say any well-known names, but I wouldn't know any names in the wrestling world.
There's one that the listeners may, if you watched World of Sport that we were talking about before, there was a gentleman called Keith Myatt who used to wrestle, and he's a local Stoke man, and he will be performing on our show. Unfortunately, I don't think anyone will know of many. We've tried to go for a mix of established names in the British industry, but there's also a lot of up and coming guys from some of the training schools that are in the northwest because we want to give them a bit of exposure. So we're putting some new guys up with some of the established guys so they can get a bit of experience as well, a bit of experience working in front of a crowd. So it's unfortunately I can't really give you many names that you'll know of. But like I say, the listeners, if you've watched World of Sport, you'll remember Keith Myatt because he's a local
right.
lad.
So are you going to be commentating on it? Are you MC or what's your role going to be?
I'm hoping to commentate. I work as a commentator for two companies. Like I say, Great Bear are based in Sandbach. I work for them, and I work for Grand Pro Wrestling. They're based up in Wigan. Yeah. So I would like to commentate on it. We're thinking of filming it for DVD release because we're thinking if we can, sell 20 copies on DVD, that's an extra 200. So sell them for £10 a pop, that's an extra £200 to the charity. Exactly. Yeah. So that will need commentary doing, and I work as a commentator, so I could do that. I wouldn't mind being an MC. We've got a really great ring announcer, a guy called Marc who's pretty well known in the business. He's doing it. He's offering his services for free for us, so he's going to be the ring announcer. So I mean, I'm expecting to do something in the ring at the start, thanking people for coming and everything. But
okay, now you're not expecting me to say this, but can you commentate for 20 seconds? Give us a typical commentary of someone holding somebody up and then slamming them down and doing the bit.
You caught me a little bit off guard there, especially as I was commentating last night, so my voice isn't wonderful.
Okay. I won't ask if you don't want to.
No, it's fine.
I just thought, do you give it a lot of passion?
I try. It all depends. The thing about wrestling commentary is that the way that the way I do it, it's done for a DVD. So you're not commentating for the people in the room. No. You're doing it for the people watching at home.
Yeah.
And so what you're doing is you've got to keep one eye on the match, but one eye you've got to follow all the cameramen. around at all times.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
So you're because you've got to remember that they're not in the room at the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you've got to comment on what the camera is seeing and not what you're seeing there, because sometimes I'm up in a balcony or I'm ringside.
Yeah.
So what I can see doesn't really matter. It's what you can see in the camera. Yeah. And the thing about wrestling,
and you've got an eye on the old lady as well.
Of course. The thing about wrestling is it's all about telling a story. You don't necessarily have to just talk about all the moves that are happening. You're telling a story of why this match is happening, or why wrestler A does this move on wrestler B, for example. If your finishing move is a powerbomb where you lift someone up and you slam them down onto the mat, you want to work over the arm of that wrestler so that when they go to lift you up, they can't do it because the strength has gone from the arm. Does that make sense?
Yes. So you aren't doing things like, oh my goodness, he's lifted him up, he's going to slam, he's going to hurt.
It depends. It all depends. Last night I was. Last night, me and my broadcast partner, a gentleman called Dave Mustard, we were at ringside, and there's a stage that goes to the ramp. Yeah. And there was a match called a street fight. Now, street fights they're a feud ender. If you can imagine, there's been, like, for argument's sake, 5 matches between the two wrestlers. That they'll have a grudge match at the end of the feud to settle the feud, and this was a street fight, so it normally it can be quite a bit more violent than a standard wrestling match. And one of the gentlemen picked up the other and launched him off the stage through our commentary table, and you can imagine that. It's, oh my God, Dylan Roberts has just been slammed through the table by El Ligero. And that's the type of thing that at that moment, it's all about pitching your voice at the right time. If you're shouting like that for a standard body slam, if you're shouting, oh, what a body slam, that just sounds stupid. That's an amazing. Look at the strength and the power of Dylan Roberts as he body slams El Ligero. It's all about pitching your voice.
But the show on the show at the New Life Church is very much a family show.
Oh yes, very much so. Yeah.
Okay, so let's finish off by saying where it is, how much tickets are, and whether you can get them in advance or what's happening. So it's all at the New Life Church.
New Life Church, West Street in Congleton. It's on the A34. There's a bus stop literally outside the church if people can get there by bus. Tickets are £9 for adults, they're £5 for children, and we're classing children as under 17s. Okay. So if you're a teenager, you can come along and only pay £5. You can get a family ticket, which is 2 adults, 2 children, for £25.
And when is it?
It's on, oh gosh, I can't believe I didn't think to mention that. July the 13th, 2 weeks today. Yeah. And we've got a great looking card. We've run out 4 matches so far, 3 of which have never happened in this country before, believe it or not. We've got there's a company based in Stockport called Future Shock Wrestling. They're one of the big heavy hitters. They're 10 years old next year. They're allowing us to use their championship, which they never do. They never let anyone use the championship outside of a Future Shock show. We've got a Future Shock championship match. There'll be a big main event, and tickets are available on the door.
And if people want to find out more or just see anything, is there a website they can go to? Or
there is a Facebook page. Okay. That we have. It's literally just called Charity Wrestling Event.
Mm-hmm. Charity Wrestling Event.
Charity Wrestling Show.
Charity Wrestling Show on Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Or if they wanted more information with regards to the storehouse, that would be direct through nlchurch.org.uk.
nlchurch.org.uk.
Absolutely.
.org.uk. Brilliant. Okay. Well, Lisa Daniels, Marc Pearson, thanks for coming in. Fascinating.
No worries. Thank you for having us.
Hope it goes really well.
Thank you.
Thanks.